Welcome back to the Vintage Sewing Machine, everyone. The Vintage Sewing Machine Garage, sorry. I'm bringing you a video today as I am debuting the now fully reconditioned Viking Husqvarna. This is the 19E model that all of you, or some of you may have seen when I did a video on. Occasionally I'll do videos when I get a new machine just to talk about why I got it, if it's one I haven't really talked about before. I have restored these before, but it's been a while. They're not as commonly found. You typically find Husqvarnas in what they call the 6000 series, and that series was still based on the overall mechanical design of this machine. This machine is has far more steel and metal in it than the later 6000 series. The 6000 series can be a great machine. But this is the Viking Husqvarna 19E, and it was made in Sweden. This is back when Husqvarna sewing machines were still made in Sweden. They are not today. This is a free arm model, and I'll just briefly, before I start sewing with it, show it to you. It has one of the most simple releases you'll ever find on a sewing deck. Now, and you can see here on the back, this is what I pulled to release a pin that holds it in place. And this machine would have been sold as a free arm with they're called free arm convertibles because you can convert them, obviously, to use in a sort of a flatbed manner. Many of the Viking Husqvarnas were similar to Bernina in several ways. Of course, the Berninas are Swiss made. These were made in Sweden. I think the quality is pretty equal. They had slightly different design approaches. One of the things this machine shares with Bernina's is the fact that it has, its free arm is one of the more narrow that you'll come across in the vintage era. A lot of free arm machines today, the modern ones, the arm of the free arm protrusion typically is wider. Even the Kenmores that you guys have heard me talk about so flatteringly have wider ones, and that's fine. Most of you wouldn't notice the difference. But if you have sewing projects where you need the arm to be smaller, then those 1960s Berninas, along with the 1960s Viking Husqvarnas, are going to be some of the most narrow of the arms that you can find, particularly if you sew children's clothes or something like that. That's one scenario where I can see it might matter to you. And of course, your access to the bobbin case is right here. This machine has a new bobbin case. And the Viking Husqvarnas for quite a few years they may actually still use this size. It's called a Type M like motor, bobbin. And they're very easy to find. These are spun aluminum. You can get these online. I always like using vintage bobbins. But again, I'm going to provide, for whoever takes this machine, they will get, I'll give them several vintage bobbins to get you started. But they're easy to find. I can direct you where to find them. They're not tough to find at all. This has a really convenient bobbin winder on it. Let's talk about the rest of the machine. Let's see. One of the things that these machines are known for is it has 4 individual feed dogs. And so it has a little bit more gripping power than some of the older machines. And that's very useful when you're sewing maybe some heavier fabrics. But again, all of you have your favorite machines depending on what it is you're trying to sew. Let's see. On the front, these are a set of controls that are relatively intuitive. I like the way Husqvarna designed the little graphic here. It's not that hard to figure out. So over here you have needle position, and of course it's set on center, but it will set either to the right or the left, and it has a nice firm click, so you know where it is. As I may have mentioned in the introduction video I did when I first got this here that you're seeing is the stitch length control, and the number 4 is the highest, and then you can reduce the stitch length. This is stitch width control, and so again you can take this and move it either to 0, which will give you straight stitch, or you can switch over to 4, which will give you the widest of the zigzag. And then the last knob here is for lowering feed dogs. So this machine is double needle capable, Your tension adjustment on for the top thread is right here, not surprisingly. And let's see what else to show you. I'm going to go ahead and reinstall the deck here, and it literally just like that, boom. Let's see what else to show you. There are two places on this machine. I think it's kind of cute. You'll see down here it says Sweden special, and it's got the crown of Sweden. I don't know if this is like in the UK where the royal palace used to endorse products, but maybe the king and queen of Sweden had endorsed this, and you see it here again. It's kind of cute. I don't know if they still use it, although I think the new Viking Husqvarnas may still use a green color. They did for much of their history. Let's see what else to show you. Oh, the light. The light is one of the easiest to ever access I have seen on a machine. There's a little tiny little lever you pull down, and as you do, this wonderfully hinged, high quality piece lowers down, and you have direct access to the bulb. And this bulb works beautifully. You can still get replacements, and then you push it up and tension holds it. It's really convenient. I think I may have mentioned in the intro video that this machine is, in terms of industrial design, it was incredibly crafted. I try really hard not to tell people what machines I think are attractive. The aesthetics of a sewing machine, as long as it's in good shape like this one, it has lots of beautiful shine to it. What you think is attractive is totally personal. We all have different ideas, and I don't like videos where people tell me what I should find nice looking or not. I will say that this machine is done in a really well, it's sort of like a pearlized emerald green, and you can always spot these pretty quickly. In the North American market, or in the United States, Viking was often used with the name Husqvarna. It may have been different in Canada, because Canada had a retailer that used the name Viking on a private label department store chain, but those are not the same machine, not the same company. Let's see what else to say. This machine has multiple oiling points. They're very easy to access. What I was going to tell you about the industrial design, this machine had to have been very costly to produce, and I'll explain why. There is no lid on the top of this machine, nor is there a separate panel on the side. Once you get past the little side door here, this piece all the way down, all the way around until it meets where the free arm extension is one solid single piece of cast steel, and it is amazing. It would have been very expensive to design the molds and to form this piece. And all manufacturers of all brands, they did some things that were wonderful. They all had their signature innovations, I guess. So anyway, what else to show you? This is the foot pedal. Now the foot pedal on these vintage Husqvarnas is actually nice. They're nicely sized, and a little place to put your heel here. And I just think that's kind of clever. It's very comfortable no matter what size foot you have, and it even has, yet again, the Swedish crown embossed on it, which I think is cool. One thing to note too is I don't know the exact chemistry, but like other European companies, Husqvarna started to move in the 60s to what I believe is either silicone or silicone blended cords. And I like those because you always have to inspect any cord, but it's still very pliable. Silicone tends to be more durable, but again, you've got to inspect any cord of any machine you get. So let's see, I have done some sewing with this machine to test it, and I've also got some fabric here. I'm gonna let you guys see it run. So let's see. You can see here I was doing some test stitching of both the straight and the zigzag stitches. This machine, by the way, has a little built-in cam on the back. It's like a knob, and it has 3 settings. Zigzag, which you would also use for straight, multi-point zigzag, and that might be useful if you're sewing a knit, for example, and then blind stitch. And you know what? Of all the stitch styles that many machines came with, even in the vintage era, Honestly, the three I just listed for you, those are the three most common that you will ever use. Many people won't use all the decorative stitches. I've had clients that ask me for machines that would, but that's less common. To be honest, it's just, if you can get those three stitches, that's the bulk of what many of you will use. And I know there are exceptions. Some of you really enjoy decorative stitching, but I found that the majority of people typically don't use them. So I have got a medium to heavy weight cotton. This came off a pair of khaki pants, and I've got a size 16 needle installed here. You of course can use smaller size needles. Many of my customers want to sew at least medium weight fabrics, and that's one of the reasons they often will look for a vintage machine model. Let's see, the light switch is here, and I won't use it today because I've got this wonderful natural light. Now I'm going to try to motion myself up to this table, and we'll give it a little go here and let you guys see it stitched. Let's see what I've got the settings on. Let's come over and we will start with a long straight stitch. You guys can see that. I can slow down my sewing speed like you're seeing here, or I can speed it up. And of course I have back tacking here. Oh yeah, really nicely balanced. Let's see. So I'm going to turn around, and this time I'm going to shorten the stitch and bring my needle up, and we'll go down past 1. As I mentioned in the intro video, this machine has a lot of degree control over stitch length, more so than a lot of other machines. So I'm going to go ahead and make a very short straight stitch, and you'll notice the fabric is feeding more slowly because of that. And I can tell you, I don't know if you guys can tell by the microphone I have here as I'm filming this, but I'm not going as fast as I could. As you see, I can speed up there. Many of you won't need that kind of speed, but if you do, it can handle it. Now, let's see. I'm going to switch over to zigzag. Pull my needle up, and let's come all the way over. Now, let's see here. One thing I wanted to mention to you all, and again, I don't know how the sound comes across on the microphone here, but this machine is one of the quietest I've ever had. The only thing quieter is a Singer 201, or maybe a Singer Featherweight. Even when I increase the speed, I hear a little clicking of the spool on the spool pin. And this makes a really beautiful satin stitch. I could even probably go a little shorter if I wanted. That's how much control you get. And that's impressive. This is an analog machine. There are no computers in it. And yet it still will let you have that kind of control. That's unusual. Let's see here. I think I'll come over and let's see. I'm going to keep the width, but I'm going to increase my stitch length back to the longest setting. And you can see the other zigzag, the way it looks when you're doing it long. And of course, this machine, like any really good solid vintage model, it goes over multiple densities. So I have several seams in this fabric where the fabric changes density. It goes from 2 layers to 4 to I think even to 6 in some places. And yet, as you'll see, the tension holds beautifully. Any good machine should do that for you, and it's one of the hallmarks of a vintage machine. Not saying there aren't new ones that could do it for you, but yeah. Okay, so now you can see this, guys. I'll show you. Let's start up here. I'll show you at the very top. You're going to see. Hope this is focusing in. At the top, you're going to see the long straight stitch I did, and then here's the back tacking where it gets that extra layer. And then I came over here and I did a very, very fine short straight stitch, beautiful, not unlike the single rotaries. It's not exactly, but I think it gives them a run for its money. Here you see a very nice satin stitch, and then here you can see the zigzag where I made the length long again. So again and again, we can do blind stitch on this machine all day long. It's a very simple machine to use, and yet it gives you a lot of options. Again, I have about half of my clients want machines and tables, the others do not. This machine, just like the Bernina I was speaking about before, most of the ones that were sold in carrying cases. You see a lot fewer Viking Husqvarnas and Berninas that came in tables. I'm not sure why that is, but many of them were sold. They may have been justified it because they were free arms. And it could also be that some of the people who bought these already had an older straight stitcher at home and a table. Not sure, it could be any of those scenarios, but anyway, I wanted to just show this to you guys. It has been fully reconditioned, and it will be put up on the Kijiji listing soon. And if you see this, and I'll also post the listing of all the reconditioning procedures, all the restoration procedures I performed to get the machine ready. And so if you would like to come and arrange a time to see the machine and possibly test sew on it, feel free to reach me. You can contact me through the Kijiji listing. If you are new to sewing, I can show you how to use it. And if you are a sewing veteran, I can introduce you to it and let you give it a test drive. Thank you all for watching. I don't get these very often, and when I saw it, I thought, oh, I'd like to restore another one of these. They are truly smooth and quiet, and one of the more fun to me of the European machines from the vintage era. Thanks for watching, everyone, and stay tuned for the next videos coming up soon.